Listen up, men. I'm a woman, and I'm about to tell you something that most women will never admit. There are 4 simple questions that will instantly expose if your wife is a narcissist. And trust me, if you don't ask these questions now, you could spend years not understanding why your relationship feels toxic, why you always feel like you're walking on eggshells, and why nothing you do ever seems to be enough. These aren't just random questions. They're psychological traps that will strip away the perfect mask she's been wearing and reveal the manipulation underneath. Stop right now. Before I show you these 4 revealing questions, I need a small favor. Hit that subscribe button so you'll know exactly when she's using these manipulative tactics on you. Smash the like button and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. It's incredible how many men worldwide are dealing with this exact situation right now, feeling confused and gaslit in their own homes. As a woman, I know how we think, how we manipulate, and how we hide our true intentions when we need to. Narcissistic women are especially skilled at this game. They create the perfect mask of the loving, caring wife, but these 4 questions will rip that mask off instantly. Each question is a psychological trap that a narcissist cannot escape from without exposing herself. The beauty of these questions is that they seem innocent on the surface, but they target the core traits that narcissists simply cannot fake. Self-awareness, genuine remorse, empathy for others, and accountability. These are foreign concepts to a narcissistic mind. Question number 1. How do you think about your main flaws or weaknesses? This question cuts straight to the heart of narcissistic psychology. Here's what you need to understand about how a narcissist's mind works. They have constructed an entire identity around being superior, being the victim, or being misunderstood. Admitting to real flaws threatens this carefully constructed self-image. When you ask this question, watch her reaction carefully. A healthy woman will pause, think genuinely, and give you 2 or 3 real weaknesses. She might say she's impatient sometimes, or that she struggles with perfectionism, or that she can be too critical of herself. These are real human responses that show self-reflection and honesty. But a narcissist will do one of several things. She might completely refuse to answer, deflecting with something like, "Why are you asking me this?" Or, "What's wrong with you today?" She might give you fake flaws that are actually humble brags. She'll say things like, "I'm too generous," "I care too much about other people," or "I'm too trusting." These aren't real flaws. These are ways of positioning herself as superior while pretending to be humble. Pay attention to her body language when you ask this question. Narcissists become immediately defensive when challenged about their self-perception. You'll see her shoulders tense, her voice change, or she might even become aggressive. A healthy woman remains calm and thoughtful when discussing her weaknesses because she's comfortable with her humanity. The most telling response is when she turns the question back on you aggressively. She might say, "Well, what about your flaws?" Or start listing everything wrong with you instead of answering the question. This is classic narcissistic deflection. She cannot handle the spotlight being on her imperfections, so she immediately redirects it to attack you instead. Question number 2. Can you remember a specific situation where you were wrong and genuinely apologized? This question is absolutely devastating to a narcissist because it requires 2 things they struggle with deeply. First, admitting they were wrong about something. Second, showing genuine remorse and accountability. For a healthy woman, this question is easy. She can immediately think of several situations where she made a mistake, hurt someone's feelings, or handled something poorly, and then took responsibility by apologizing sincerely. But watch what happens when you ask a narcissist this question. First, she'll struggle to come up with any specific situation. She might sit there for an uncomfortably long time, or she might immediately become defensive. When she does respond, she'll likely give you one of these narcissistic non-apologies. She might say, "I always apologize when I need to," but notice she's not giving you a specific instance. This is because narcissists view apologies as admissions of weakness and they avoid them whenever possible. Or she might give you what therapists call a conditional apology. She'll say something like, "I apologized when you got upset about that thing, but I still don't think I was wrong." This isn't a real apology. This is her telling you that she went through the motions to manage your emotions, but she doesn't actually believe she did anything wrong. The most manipulative narcissists will give you fake scenarios where they were supposedly wrong, but if you dig deeper and ask for details, the story falls apart. They might say they apologized for being late to dinner, but then when you ask what happened, suddenly it becomes a story about how traffic was terrible, and it wasn't really their fault anyway. Here's the real test. Ask for details about the apology. What exactly did they apologize for? How did they make it right? A person who genuinely apologized will remember these details because taking accountability creates a strong memory. A narcissist who gave a fake apology will struggle with specifics because the apology never actually happened in any meaningful way. The most common narcissistic response to this question is deflection and counterattack. She'll say something like, "I can't believe you're keeping track of when I apologize," or "You never apologize either," or "This is ridiculous. Why are we even talking about this?" All of these responses are ways of avoiding the question because she cannot answer it honestly. Question number 3. What do you think my friends and family think about me? This question is a masterpiece of psychological assessment because it reveals whether your wife has genuine empathy and whether she supports your relationships with others. A healthy woman will give you specific, positive examples of what your friends and family have said about you. She'll remember conversations, compliments, and positive interactions because she genuinely cares about your social connections and supports them. But a narcissist will respond very differently. She might give you a superficial answer like, "Oh, they love you," but it will lack any specific details or genuine warmth. More commonly, she'll use this question as an opportunity to create division between you and your support system. She might say things like, "Well, your brother seems to think you work too much," or "Your mom mentioned that you've seemed stressed lately." Notice how these responses subtly undermine your relationships by focusing on perceived criticisms rather than positive aspects. The most manipulative narcissists will use this question to plant seeds of doubt about your relationships. They might say, "I think they worry about you," or "They don't always understand your choices," or "They seem concerned about our relationship." These responses are designed to make you feel insecure about your social connections and more dependent on her for validation. Watch for answers that consistently redirect negative attention toward you or create drama around your relationships with others. A narcissist cannot genuinely celebrate your connections with other people because they view those relationships as competition for your attention and loyalty. They want to be your primary source of validation and support, so they systematically undermine your other relationships. If she becomes uncomfortable with this question or seems annoyed that you're asking about other people's opinions, that's a red flag. A healthy partner is genuinely interested in your social connections and wants to understand how others perceive you because they care about your happiness and social well-being. Men, if she couldn't give you a clear, positive answer about what others think of you, that's a major red flag. But this last question is the most important one of all. Question number 4. What would you change about our relationship to make it better? This is the ultimate test of accountability and partnership mindset. This question reveals whether your wife sees herself as an equal partner in the relationship who shares responsibility for its success, or whether she sees herself as the victim of your shortcomings. A healthy woman will immediately mention things that both of you could work on together. She might say that you both need to communicate better, or that she could be more patient while you could be more attentive, or that you both need to make more time for each other. But a narcissist will use this question as an opportunity to list everything wrong with you while taking zero responsibility for any problems in the relationship. She'll say things like, "You need to help more around the house," "You should be more romantic," "You need to make more money," or you should spend less time with your friends. Notice that every single suggestion places the burden of change entirely on you. The most telling aspect of a narcissistic response is the complete absence of self-reflection. She will not mention a single thing that she could do differently or better. In her mind, she is perfect, and all relationship problems stem from your failures as a partner. This is classic narcissistic thinking. They are the victim of everyone else's shortcomings, never the contributor to any problems. Pay attention to the language she uses. Healthy people use collaborative language like we could or both of us should. Narcissists use demanding language like you need to or you should. This reveals their fundamental belief that relationships exist to serve their needs, not to be mutual partnerships of growth and support. Another narcissistic response is to become defensive about the question itself. She might say, "There's nothing wrong with our relationship," or "I can't believe you're asking me this," or "Are you saying there are problems?" This defensiveness occurs because narcissists cannot handle any suggestion that they might be imperfect or that there might be room for improvement in something they're involved in. The most manipulative narcissists will flip this question around and ask you what you would change, then use your honest answer as ammunition against you later. They collect information about your insecurities and desires so they can weaponize them in future arguments or use them to manipulate your behavior. Now, beyond these 4 questions, there are additional red flags you should watch for during this conversation that will give you even more insight into her psychological makeup. If she becomes angry or hostile about being asked these questions, that's a major warning sign. Healthy people are comfortable with self-reflection and honest communication. They might find the questions challenging or thought-provoking, but they don't become defensive when their partner asks thoughtful questions about the relationship. The anger response reveals something crucial about narcissistic psychology. When a narcissist feels threatened or exposed, they often respond with what's called narcissistic rage. This isn't ordinary anger. It's a disproportionate, intense fury that seems to come out of nowhere. The rage serves multiple purposes. It intimidates you into backing down. It deflects attention from their behavior onto your inappropriate questioning, and it punishes you for daring to challenge their carefully constructed image. If she accuses you of not trusting her or being controlling for asking these questions, that's classic narcissistic deflection. She's trying to make you feel guilty for seeking clarity about your relationship dynamics. A healthy partner would appreciate your desire to understand each other better and might even ask similar questions in return because mutual understanding strengthens relationships. The accusation of control is particularly insidious because it flips the script. Suddenly, you're the bad guy for asking reasonable questions about your own relationship. If she refuses to answer the questions at all and storms off or shuts down the conversation, that's extremely telling. Someone who genuinely cares about the relationship and has nothing to hide will engage with these questions, even if they find them challenging. The shutdown response is a form of emotional manipulation called stonewalling, where one partner refuses to engage in order to punish the other for bringing up uncomfortable topics. Watch for what therapists call DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. First, she'll deny that there are any problems with her responses. Then she'll attack you for asking the questions, or suggest there's something wrong with you for being suspicious. Finally, she'll reverse the roles, making herself the victim of your interrogation and you the aggressor for simply seeking understanding. This pattern is so common among narcissists that it's become a recognized manipulation tactic in psychological literature. If she immediately turns the conversation around to focus on your flaws and shortcomings instead of answering the questions, that's manipulation. She's using your vulnerability in asking these questions as an opportunity to attack and deflect. This response reveals that she views conversations not as opportunities for mutual understanding and connection, but as battlegrounds where someone wins and someone loses. She cannot allow herself to be vulnerable or accountable because she sees that as losing ground in the relationship power struggle. Pay attention to how she discusses other people in her life during this conversation. Narcissists typically have a pattern of relationship difficulties that they always blame on others. If every friendship that ended was because the other person was jealous, crazy, or toxic, that's a red flag. If every job she left was because of a terrible boss or incompetent coworkers, that's another warning sign. Healthy people can acknowledge their role in relationship difficulties and can speak about others with nuance and empathy, even when those relationships ended poorly. Another narcissistic response is to become defensive about the question itself. She might say, "There's nothing wrong with our relationship," or "I can't believe you're asking me this," or "Are you saying there are problems?" This defensiveness occurs because narcissists cannot handle any suggestion that they might be imperfect, or that there might be room for improvement in something they're involved in. The most manipulative narcissists will flip this question around and ask you what you would change, then use your honest answer as ammunition against you later. They collect information about your insecurities and desires so they can weaponize them in future arguments or use them to manipulate your behavior. Now, beyond these 4 questions, there are additional red flags you should watch for during this conversation. If she becomes angry or hostile about being asked these questions, that's a major warning sign. Healthy people are comfortable with self-reflection and honest communication. They don't become defensive when their partner asks thoughtful questions about the relationship. If she accuses you of not trusting her or being controlling for asking these questions, that's classic narcissistic deflection. She's trying to make you feel guilty for seeking clarity about your relationship dynamics. A healthy partner would appreciate your desire to understand each other better. If she refuses to answer the questions at all and storms off or shuts down the conversation, that's extremely telling. Someone who genuinely cares about the relationship and has nothing to hide will engage with these questions, even if they find them challenging. If she immediately turns the conversation around to focus on your flaws and shortcomings instead of answering the questions, that's manipulation. She's using your vulnerability in asking these questions as an opportunity to attack and deflect. Men, these questions aren't designed to destroy your relationship. They're designed to give you clarity about what kind of relationship you're actually in. If your wife passes these tests with flying colors, showing genuine self-awareness, accountability, empathy, and partnership mindset, then you should appreciate and value her. She's demonstrating the emotional maturity and character that healthy relationships require. But if she fails these tests, responding with defensiveness, deflection, blame-shifting, and lack of accountability, then you have important information about the dynamics in your relationship. You're not dealing with someone who sees you as an equal partner. You're dealing with someone who sees the relationship as existing primarily to serve her needs and ego. Understanding this doesn't necessarily mean your relationship is doomed, but it does mean you need to make some important decisions about boundaries, expectations, and your own well-being. You cannot change a narcissist, but you can change how you respond to narcissistic behavior. Remember that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, genuine care for each other's well-being, shared accountability, and the ability to communicate honestly about difficulties. If these elements are missing from your relationship, no amount of effort on your part will create them. You cannot love someone into becoming emotionally healthy. If these questions opened your eyes to what's really happening in your relationship, smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more insights about relationship dynamics and psychology. And write in the comments, how many red flags did you recognize? Share your experience because your story might help other men who are struggling with similar situations. Don't forget to tell me what city you're watching from. The support from men worldwide dealing with these challenges is incredible, and knowing you're not alone in this experience can make all the difference.